He said, what? Man, we got to talk about this Chris McIntosh letter.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being an everydayer and part of that community. Really do appreciate you. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first order. We got Justin. I'm here as well, your host, Ryan Harings. Today, we're talking about the letter of the vote of confidence letter that Chris McIntosh penned to all the pensive Badger fans out there. Is there any plan? Thoughts on the timing of it, what it said, and just what it means going forward. We got Justin here. I wanted to everybody kind of react to this right away, and we kind of let it simmer for a day to think about it a little bit. Justin and I have talked offline about it. I know there's been a lot of conversations in podcasts. If you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen it. Chris McIntosh released a letter. We're not going to read it all here, but essentially, we understand football is important, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take money, blah, blah, blah. We're going to keep moving forward, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the too long didn't read version of it. Justin, what were your thoughts on the Chris McIntosh letter?
It's a lot of word salad, not a lot of anything structured or real that tells us what they're going to do, which gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of on the back end being able to do whatever you want kind of and say that you're making an effort, which I think part of the reason why we're, at least for me, I'm so angry. I read this and it felt like kind of a lack of accountability in a way for the results that have happened this year. And you want to blame it all on money, which, no offense, McIntosh, you're responsible for that. You're the one that's responsible for setting that budget. And then say, well, we haven't given the resources. Well, that's your fault. Like, that's on you. And then painting it in a direction where you make it seem like that has been the issue here, which I think to me is the bigger picture problem that I have with it is if this was what was being said in Wisconsin was 2-5 right now, and we had played our butts off in a bunch of these games and we're close, but just didn't quite have what it took to get over the top and win these games, I could get behind that. I can't get behind it when you've gotten blown out 71-0 in the last 2 weeks and you don't look even competitive. Like, we look like an FCS school right now playing in the Big Ten. Like, we are just getting trounced. These teams are basically going on cruise control against us. And you're here trying to tell us that, well, if we spend some money on players, who wants to come here and play when your team looks like has been as poor as we are this year? There's nothing you could sell them that's going to say, we're going to be good. Come here and you can be a part of this. If you get two big money deals, and Wisconsin's one of them, the other one is a team that went, say, 8-4 last year. Who are you taking? Like, every time you're taking the 8-4 team because you're like, hey, I might win a championship. Wisconsin, you might be looking at, hey, I might be able to get to like 5-6 wins.
I think it's well said. I think you nailed it, dude. I think it was word salad. I think it felt like they went to ChatGPT and said, draft up a letter that'll make the fans feel better. And ChatGPT, without having any real reference of Wisconsin fans,
fake anger.
Yeah, ChatGPT was like, try this, it'll work. Listen, AI is not quite there yet. It didn't work. You hit on a couple things that I wrote down a couple notes that really bothered me about this letter. That really bothered me. The first one was, and I have them to the side, so you see me looking to the side. The first one is the lack of ownership. You said accountability. I'm going to say ownership. They're the same kind of idea. The idea of we need more money. We need this. We're working hard. Dude, just for a second, have some honesty and say, we messed up. I'm sorry. And it doesn't mean a ton, but people react to authenticity. They react to care.
Oh, absolutely. And that's part of the problem.
Just say, we messed up. I'm the guy in charge. I've messed this stuff up. I need to be better. We're going to try to be better going forward. Just starting with an ounce of humility and accountability would have gone such a long way for some people. It doesn't fix everything. It doesn't fix anything, but it helps. The other one I'd tell you that bothers me, this is the other note I put on the side, is and you hit on it too, and I have an analogy for this because I've been working on the best way in my head to figure this out. The idea that we need more money, I think that is true. I think this department does need more money. I think we do need to emphasize NIL, and I'm going to get to why part of this is a good thing going forward. But if you go to a neighborhood and you drive down a neighborhood, and we'll call it the Big Ten West Avenue, well, you were turning down Big Ten West Boulevard, and you look at Iowa's house, and you're like, Iowa's house looks pretty. They're taking care of that place. You look at Illinois and Northwestern and Purdue and some of these other schools, you're like, they're taking care of their place with similar amounts of money that Wisconsin has. Then you drive by the Wisconsin Badgers house and the door's falling off. Everything's rusty.
It's a frat house.
Well, give you more money to get a better house when you can't take care of the one you have. Other schools with similar budgets don't look as bad as we do. So don't tell me you're just going to infuse money into this. If you give somebody who has poor spending habits and credit card debt a bunch more money, they're not going to suddenly become financially responsible. Mm-hmm. And that's what really frustrates me about this. It's a lack of accountability, and it's a lack of acknowledgement of the core problems, which money plays a part. Justin, I think you and I will both agree with that. But there's a lot more going on here.
Yeah, I think the other part of it that really bothers me is him saying, I'm angry too. And it's like nothing we've seen from you says that you even understand what the issue is here. So don't tell me how angry you are when it feels like you gloss over it because you don't want to look at yourself and say, this is my screw up. And that's exactly how I look at it. Like my perspective on this is where you find out people that suck as managers because their ego is too big for them to ever admit that they're the problem in the equation. And if you want to be a good leader, it starts with you. You're the one making the decisions. If your people beneath you hate you or are not effective, it starts at you. And he has to take a look at this and say, what am I doing wrong that is leading to the results that we're seeing here? And I don't think that he's capable of taking a look at himself and saying, you know what, I really screwed up here. Like I'm angry, but this is my fault. I need to acknowledge what I'm doing wrong in the areas. Now, the first thing that would normally be from anyone that has a brain in their head would be, I made the wrong hire. It's on me. And I would be willing to consider him to stay on hand if this is the attitude that he had towards it. But I want him gone because of the fact that he's completely shirking it off. And to me, it's like you could just acknowledge the fact that this isn't working and just be like, I made the wrong move. We're going to move forward. I'm going to fix this. We're going to get somebody else in here that can get the job done. Instead, you're dragging your feet on it. It feels like you're not serious. It feels like you're kind of acting like you're using buzzwords almost of things that you're hoping that people will get locked onto and be like, all right, this is a great idea. We're headed in the right direction now. It's never been a money thing. You have enough resources in-house for this to be a 6-6 team and be competitive. You're not 6-6 and you're not looking competitive. There are other issues here that you're failing to acknowledge, and getting a better roster doesn't do anything if you're not developing players and you're not doing a solid job of executing and coaching. And I feel like that's where we're at. So getting better players just means they're not going to hit their ceilings either. And you have a bunch of guys that are underperforming what they probably would be capable of in a better ecosystem.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Listen, you're not going to your point, just to continue on to that, you're not going to, if coaching, development scheme, if those are your key issues, more money is going to help you a little bit. More money is always going to help. More money will help you on the fringes. Yeah. It raises the floor.
It's not going to get you to 10 wins.
But no, if you have these other core problems, and go look at some Major League Baseball teams, you know why the Dodgers are so good? It's not just because they have a lot of money. It's because they make smart signings with it.
They have the best farm system in baseball every year.
That's it. And the money helps them because they're smart. Money acts as a multiplier when you're making intelligent decisions.
Yep,
and with the Badgers, who have also been snake bit by luck, I think that's fair to point out, but they've also not put themselves in a position where they can benefit from luck. And more money doesn't necessarily buy you out of that. I'll tell you the other thing, and this isn't a huge deal, but that just bothered me about the tone of the letter. The letter starts off with, as we get together to honor the great teams of the past, the Rose Bowls and things I've done. Like, dude, nobody wants platitudes right now. Mm-hmm. Just start. People just want honesty. And you know, one thing I wrote down, and I wanted to be clear on this, like Badger fans, I don't think we're necessarily even demanding blood. We just want accountability. Like Badger fans just want someone to step up and say, I'm the leader in this spot. It hasn't been good enough. That's on me. Because that's what people do. That's what real leaders do in real situations.
And it can't be Luke Fickle, because we've heard that from him 18 times already. And we have not seen any results off of that. So it just sounds like it rings hollow.
I will say to his credit, and listen, he has to go up and answer questions. At least he is answering those questions.
Yeah.
I would like, where's the press conference with Chris McIntosh? Not that would help either, but not this letter, not this auto pen, ChatGPT, tone deaf letter. They would have been better off just not releasing it, Justin, this letter.
I don't disagree with that. I think he's honestly trying to keep a low profile, but it's like, you should be getting out there and proving to people that you're serious. You and I talked a little bit offline, like some of the stuff in the next segment, we're going to talk about it, where people are kind of piling on. And I look at it where it's kind of the same with McIntosh. Like, you need to get yourself out there and kind of be like, you got to have the tough conversations with the fans and everybody else and be like, yeah, I understand why you're frustrated and upset about this. Putting out a statement doesn't do any good, because number one, you didn't say anything that you're really going to do. So it's a bunch of garbage that you put out there that doesn't have any real depth to it, that says, hey, we're going to have more money. I don't know what that means, but we're going to have more money.
Yeah. It's not clear. There's no clear objectives. There's no, in 3 weeks, we're going to reevaluate, which is a failure. You know what it is? It's his let them eat cake moment. It's Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake. It's just completely tone deaf. All right, we're going to take a second here. We're going to come back, talk about piling on season, the level of toxicity, and a positive. I really do think Badger fans can pull out of this letter, as misguided as I think it was. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Monarch, our great friends at Monarch. If you're managing your money, maybe even if you're the type of person that's managing an NIL account, Monarch would probably help you there too. Brings all your funds into one spot so you can see everything visually. Let's be honest, because a lot of us can't even name where every single account we have is, whether that's a credit card or like maybe a banking account or car payment, or your mortgage gets sold off several times. It's hard to keep track of some of this stuff as you adult in life. Monarch brings it all together in one spot, and that's why I started using it. My wife uses it. We use it together. We plan goals together. It's really nice to track our progress, see spending, maybe some spending habits we got to clean up. It brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface on your laptop or your phone, so you can use it either way, which makes it incredibly helpful. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Today's episode also brought to you by our incredible friends over at FanDuel. NFL season is here. And frankly, all of our teams look pretty solid, so that's nice. It's nice to break from Badger football sometimes and cheer for Rajiv, Colts, Justin, and many other people, Packers, myself, the 49ers. And you can do all that over on FanDuel. Parlays, futures, teasers, spreads, live in-game betting. This may apply to the Badgers a little bit. So if your team is struggling, you can stay in the action and continue betting on that game over at FanDuel. It is a great opportunity. Right now, new customers, if you bet $5, you can win $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's $300 to spend across the entire platform on those parlays, those futures, those teasers. Badger basketball coming up as well. Really excited for that. So whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the action, FanDuel is here for you. Head over to FanDuel.com, download the app, create the account today. FanDuel, time to get started. All right, Justin, let me throw this at you, because this was I'm going to call it my bigger picture takeaway. I think we covered, and I think a lot of Badger fans agree with us, by the way. A lot of other people, I've seen some of the content they put out. Nobody really thinks this vote of confidence, this letter from Chris McIntosh, hit very well or went the way he maybe thought it would. I do think if you pull one paragraph out of there, they talk about the need for, we know we need to, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the letter in front of me. We know we need to invest more in this program. We're going to invest more in the program. You may not see it short term. You're going to see it long term. If that's true, and I think you got to caveat everything these days with Badgers football. If that's true, then they're saying this financial thing is going to matter and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen regardless of whether or not Luke Fickle's the coach. I think that's the benefit, the positive here.
Yeah, I think we've known that needs to happen for a while. I mean, Wisconsin seems to put so many roadblocks in its way that are unnecessary for a school that has the resources at their disposal that they do. And I think they need to do whatever they can to try and massage those situations enough to limit the effect that they have on them doing their job at the highest level possible. Wisconsin has enough resources to be a top 5-6 Big Ten team. We are not performing at that level, and we are not acting like a team that's at that level. We're acting like a team that's like 12 through 16 or something like that. And that's a problem. You need to figure out a way to act to your age, so to speak, in a way. They need to prove that they are who they were for 25 years prior to this, and be serious in that regard. Like, you were fine with it when it didn't cost you a whole lot. You're going to find out real quick that if you want to continue to stay at that level and have that level of respect, it's going to cost you now, because there's a lot of roadblocks that got moved out of the way for everybody else. Either you're going to get left behind or you're going to follow.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Is this broken? And when I say is it broken, can Luke Fickle do irreparable, and Chris McIntosh, irreparable damage to Wisconsin? And the reason I asked that, before you answer, I just want to caveat it with, somebody asked me this the other day, and I thought about it for a while. And short term, for sure, I think if, like, you see a school like Indiana that's been down forever, they made a good hire and suddenly they're fine. I don't know if this thing is, to quote someone that was speaking on social media, that Wisconsin is now fundamentally broken.
So, I number one, the first thing I'm going to say is people don't understand the difference between a school like Indiana right now. Indiana was down for the better part of the last 30 years. So the level of investment that was happening within that program was not remotely what it was at Wisconsin for a long time, in terms of donations and stuff like that, which people are probably donating to whatever stuff, that whether it was to the college itself or whatever else, that led to them getting things from having a good football team. Indiana hasn't been good. So now you have a bunch of people, it's fresh money, who are jumping into this fray saying, oh my God, we have a good team. Let's open the purse strings and go nuts. And that's why you see guys like Mark Cuban dropping massive quantities of money on them and stuff like that. He probably was giving something before, but it was never like he never felt like the team was good enough for him to probably go all in on it. And Wisconsin's been good enough before where it's like, hey, we just need these few other things to kind of keep things going in the right direction, where it's much easier to get fatigued here than it is for a school like Indiana, who is like new money in a way. I think you were right. It is broken short term. This is going to be a rebuild process now. You get somebody who gets in there, this is not going to be an overnight fix. It's going to be get back to 6-6 and then build off of that and build a roster and get a coaching staff who is pragmatic and understands what they're doing and what they're dealing with for resources, and finding a way to utilize things in the best manner possible to maximize out of it what they can. You cannot do this with flash, because it will bottom out again right away. Like, you've got to build infrastructure back into this program so that your fan base can believe in it, because people are going to dip their toe in if you start winning again, but they're not going to go all in like they have been previously, because they don't trust it right now. I feel that way. Like, if we would go 8-4 next year, I would be sitting there waiting to see how are we going to repeat this, because I don't necessarily trust that it's going to happen.
Gosh, 8-4 almost feels like a pipe dream too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I would kill for 8-4. Yeah, I think that's well said.
One comment I want to make to you that I don't think people have talked about. People talk so much about potentially being 2-10. What they failed to look at, we lost the last 5 games last season too. So that would be 2 for 15 in the last 17 games that Luke Fickle coached, if that happens. And you're considering giving this guy another year. Like, what more do you need to prove that this is not working other than to have him go over? And at that point, I think you almost have to be like, we have to clean house. Like, everybody up the ladder, we need you all gone, because you're all part of the problem. You're enabling this failure. And by failure, I don't mean Luke Fickle. I mean the program in general.
No, I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. And it's something I didn't look at. 2-15, and your only wins in that stretch are Miami of Ohio and Middle
Tennessee.
Group of
5 or an FCS school.
Yeah.
No, they're Group of 5.
They're both Group of 5. But the point is, irregardless, your only 2 wins are against non-Power 4, non-Group of 4 teams. And your other 15 losses contrast against that. Listen, if you go, I've said it, and I've talked to you about this before offline. I mentioned a little bit on show. Like, it on a personal level, it sucks, because I like a lot of people in this program, and I don't But if you go 2-10, you got to move on. I've said that before. You can't come to Wisconsin in year 3 and go 2-10. You just can't. And at some point, there is a business decision that has to be made. This is D1 Big Ten football. It's not. You can't go 2-10, man, and survive in year 3 at Wisconsin.
And I think, yeah, I agree with you. And I think when looking at it, I see it from the standpoint of you can't take seriously the administration if they choose to keep him at that point. I don't care if the money isn't there. You have to find a way to make this happen. Whether you have to make some big, like, I owe you ones to somebody to make that happen, you have to get out of this, because you are really hurting yourself if you choose to sit on this, because you lose all credibility. Like, no one's ever going to take you seriously again in your position if you choose to keep him on at 2-10, especially with how uncompetitive they've looked.
Well, I think that's the other part of it, man. Like, not that you can construct any real good argument. Well, we went 2-10, but ... But my goodness, man, if you went 2-10, but gosh, that Iowa game was close, and Maryland, they won on this, and we scored against Ohio State. Like, you're so far out of the realm of competitiveness right now. You can't construct an argument. You can't. Even the most optimistic person can't do it. We are, and the other reason I think it's going to have to happen is a point we're going to talk about next. It is piling on season for, in my opinion, not always for the best reasons, but we got to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second, as always, say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this community. Justin, also go follow him and Rajiv as well over on the Bucky Report. It is a great community of Badger fans, which we both very much always appreciate. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at Game Time. If you need tickets, baseball, football, basketball, college basketball is coming up, and I'm so excited for it. Go over to Game Time. It is the perfect spot last minute to get into the crowd, be among the fan base, see everything in person, smell the popcorn, drink the beer, see John Blackwell hit a game winner against whoever this year. You're going to do that on Game Time. You're going to get pictures of the seats before you sit down. Last minute flash deals, so you get great prices, even if you wait to the end. And the tickets get emailed to your phone. Again, I've done this. This is a service I personally use on the way to watch a Braves game. Got the tickets in my phone before I got to the stadium. It was incredible. Got to have nachos in the big baseball hat with my buddy. It was awesome. And it's made possible because of Game Time. Get your tickets over on Game Time. Create the account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. And you're getting $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create the account. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and then you get $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, buddy. Let me ask you about this, because this is a trend I'm seeing lately. And I got to be honest, I don't love it. I really don't love this trend that I'm seeing, because I don't think you need to dig for criticism of what's happening right now. On a giant billboard, you have the record. It's not good enough. And now we're hearing stories, well, Luke Fickle's not letting scouts come to practice. He's not connecting to coaches. And some of this is very legitimate criticism, by the way. But some of it is also like he missed an event because he went to watch his kid play football. I can tell you I've talked to a scout who's been at practice. He didn't have an issue getting there. It feels like people are now, because this is so toxic, just piling on. And I don't think you need to, because I think in big, bold letters, you already have it. You already have the headline. It's not working.
Yeah, I think what it is people are looking to point out other cracks in the facade here and say, look, it's not just the record. There are all these other areas where there's failings going on. I can't speak to the stuff with in-state recruiting and stuff like that. I know people are really pushing that line of it, which if it's true, that's a problem for sure. The perspective I have on this is, you're right. The record does not, we don't need any other reason beyond that. Whatever's on the field is enough. I do think that there's a disconnect with him in terms of the state and how things are done here that he hasn't fully ever grasped, because it is a different animal. I almost think that you need to be. Wisconsin is a school that I think is always going to do better with a coach coming from a smaller school, because I think they're going to have a better idea as to how things are kind of looked at, provided they can also adjust to being at a larger school. Because there's two sides of it. Wisconsin in some ways acts like a very Division III institution in some ways, and then acts like a very Big Ten, situation at times. And I think that that's where you need to look at, like, in-state recruiting. You have got to be there's got to be a level of availability in Wisconsin that some coaches are just never going to be comfortable with, because you can't big time coaches in this state. Like, they're not going to fawn over you for coming into their school and being like, oh my God, that's coach here. The best thing you can be is genuine if you want to walk into a high school in Wisconsin and talk to coaches, and be legitimately, if they call you about something, pick up the phone, because those are the type of guys that those coaches are going to be like, I will push every player I have towards you, or at least, tell them good things about you if that's the type of guy you are. But if you slight them, they will absolutely look at you like maybe he's not the best fit for you. Like, I don't know how genuine and sincere this is, or is it do you have something to offer me? And that's the only time that they look at you as, someone to actively acknowledge.
My slight pushback on this one, and I mostly agree with you. I think it will do nothing. Here's what I would say. It will do nothing but help you if you build better relationships in state.
Correct. Yep.
I think that's an obvious one. And I've been a fan of, I think you got to put more effort in in-state recruiting. I think those guys generally are better culture players. They stay longer.
Mm-hmm.
Where I slightly push back, and again, this is something people have been talking about on social media, or reporters, but I think Bradley Nortman on his podcast talked about it, where Coach Fickle doesn't have a relationship with the in-state high school coaches. Nobody really cared about that in 23 and 24.
I agree.
Classes.
That should be a talking point in those seasons. Like,
this is again where I feel like we've hit piling on season, where everybody was totally cool with recruiting in 24 and 25, and now suddenly they're like, I hate it. Well, again, you didn't for the last 2 years, right? So, you were fine with what you were doing recruiting. What you hate is the product on the field. And
I will push back on that to an extent, and let me give you my thought process on this. It has nothing to do with how I felt about the 24 and 25 recruiting classes. I think there's a certain way you handle yourself as just being the in-state coach as it is, regardless of if you're recruiting their players or not. And I think that that's the part that's important to me, is like, you need to understand what the expectations are of you as a Wisconsin coach, because of the culture that's been in this state with in-state players for so long. And because of that, there's going to be expectations of you to show that you actually care about the in-state programs and stuff like that, whether you like it or not. Like, that's just how it is here, and I, for one, don't see a problem with the 24 and 25 classes in terms of the talent they brought in, but I think you still do need to cultivate those relationships with the in-state coaches and be like, hey, how are things going? Whatever, 10-minute phone call. I get it. It's a pain in the butt to do those types of things. It's a lot of effort, but the reality is if that's the way you treat those coaches, they're going to be far more willing to do you a solid and be like, yeah, I got somebody who I think you're going to want to see, and I think he's going to be a real player. And, you have that relationship, that first name basis or whatever.
That's a fair perspective. Again, I think it's a completely fair perspective. And I think you're also going to make your life easier by doing that. So I fully on board, especially to the big schools. Like, you should be calling those guys once a month and saying, hey, what's up? We would love to have you at a camp, ... How's the wife and kids? Let's get a cup of coffee sometime. Got to go. Sorry. Bye.
Absolutely.
Like, that's not a huge lift in my opinion.
That's
but
5
again,
minutes.
I'll circle back to the idea of, you hired an out-of-state coach who kept nobody from his staff, right? And then went out and started recruiting nationally. And now suddenly we're like, but you're not. It just feels.
No, I get what you're saying with that.
It feels
you can't
like
have it both ways. Like, if you really like getting the guys that are from the national side, you can't then complain that you missed out on the
right. Because what did we complain about with Paul Chris? Like, hey, get out of the state for a little bit. Go get some national talent. And I also think, not every coach is going to be like that. Maybe that's why you have a Pat Lambert, and Lambert has to be the sink for the in-state guys. But I think your overall perspective is fair too. I get it, and I think it makes it easier if you have those relationships. Justin, any last thoughts on the letter, Mac, Fickle, where we're at now, Oregon week?
I think there's a lot of fluidity right now with what's happening with the program, and I think I know people are really frustrated and angry. You need to give it some time to breathe here. Don't take too much from any of this. If you want to be really angry at the end of the season, if they choose to keep him, absolutely, I'm all for it, because I will be every bit as angry as you are. But right now, with the way things are going, I don't think you should get too bent out of shape until we see how a few more weeks play out. Because I think if he's going to get fired, he'll prove it over the next however many weeks by them just not being competitive and looking poor. Like if they get blown off the field again this week and get shot out again, it's going to be really hard to play. Like even with McIntosh saying this, playing this game where it's just a resources game when it's not even close.
Yeah, and it's probably going to happen this week. It's not going to be pretty.
56 on Rutgers, who's a heck of a lot better than us, and that was at Rutgers, not at Autzen.
It's not going to be pretty, man. Yeah, I'll wrap up by saying, hey, go check out the work Justin and Rajiv do as always. Coming out on our Discord as always. I'm just going to wrap up again. I've said this a couple times. Everybody should fan how they want to fan. That's like one of the principles of this show. Whether you want to be, if you still want to be positive and optimistic, God love you. And don't be a jerk to those people who want to be that. If you want to be angry and frustrated, don't maybe take it out on the recruits, on players that are coming to Madison. I mean, everyone
stay off social media. You don't need to be interacting with the recruits. You want to be angry, I'm all for it. Come in the Discord. There's plenty of angry people in there right now. And stay away from
everyone.
And stay away from the kids.
Yeah, so be a good person still, because again, we're all in this together. I promise you, every real Badger fan wants the same thing, even if we see different roads to getting there. So be a good part of the community. Aside from that, thank you for being a part of the community. On Wisconsin, we will definitely talk to you more this week. A bunch of basketball content coming up, more football as well, including a potential big-time guest on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk later.